Welcome back to beyoungministry.blogspot.com to another podcast out of Second Peter. Today we're in Second Peter chapter 1 and verse 5, which reads, "For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge." Again, that's Second Peter chapter 1 verse 5. In this passage, the apostle provides a list of 8 characteristics which will aid the believer in our walk with the Lord. I said this passage, I mean verses 5 through 7, and today we're just dealing with verse 5. This list of 8 begins with faith and ends with love. This list corresponds with the message of the whole Bible. Our confidence or faith in God's promises is the means by which we access God's power for a godly and wise life. The commands in this passage, verses 5 through 7, are based on what the apostle has written in verses 3 through 4. And you'll remember 2 Peter 1, 3 through 4 provides the pathway to a godly or a wise life. These characteristics are produced by God, not by us. In like manner, the evil desires within us are not of our creation. And on a day-by-day basis, we choose to access the fruit of the Spirit or the works of the flesh. The apostle tells us in Philippians chapter 2, verse 13, "It is God who is at work in you to will and to do according to his good pleasure." As believers in Jesus Christ, we must be careful to never reverse this order by saying, "I will work out my salvation so that God will work in me." A lot of people believe that. In fact, they behave as such. But it's not true. It's God who is at work in us to do and to will according to his good pleasure. A literal translation of 2 Peter 1:5 is this: "As you have received faith in Christ and stand in it, now apply yourself diligently to advance in goodness. And as you stand in that, do not be satisfied, but press on to increase your knowledge of God's will, and you will stand in that. Do not be satisfied." That's a literal translation. The fruit of the Spirit is not the product of the believer, nor are the works of the flesh. We give in to either on a day-by-day basis. The Greek word that the apostle uses here for goodness is only used 5 times in the New Testament. In classical times, the word meant the God-given ability to perform heroic deeds. And it came to mean the quality of someone's life which makes them stand out as excellent. It's a noble term. It's a term of heroism. It's a term of moral heroism, moral excellence, quality. It means the act of living up to one's potential. Again, this characteristic is produced by God in our yielded lives as we choose to allow God to define us. Goodness. To goodness, Peter admonishes us to live out of God's provision of knowledge. The word Peter uses here for knowledge is gnosko, which is the same root word for the word knowledge that he uses in verse 3. Gnosko is used over 200 times in the New Testament. It's an experiential word. Experiential knowledge is what it's speaking of. And this word knowledge means correct insight or understanding, or truth properly comprehended, or properly understood, or properly applied. We must know before we can live, is the point that Peter is making in this passage. The Christian life is not impossible because the inertia comes from God, comes from His Spirit, who desires to live the life of God to us, in us, and through us. And so we don't take credit for the goodness and the knowledge that God gives us. We do choose it. We do choose to allow God to define us. And I trust, my friend, you're doing that today. And I trust these podcasts are helpful to you in your walk with the Lord. If I could ever be any help to you, feel free to contact me at beyoungministry@gmail.com. I trust you have a great day.